create user, and it says what? Input your name. My name is CS Free, age is 50, and email address is csfree@gmail.com. And it says please keep your ID, which is a UUID string, private. If lost, can't access account. And what is this that we are doing? So think of this as when a user tries to register in a real world application, the form that the user gets to fill in. That's what we are modeling in our console. So this is same thing with what a user coming in over here and doing CS Free and the likes, and email and password and create account, right? But with the console, we are taking away the whole UI detail and what and model it down to the console world, which is the server side. So welcome into this series of video where we'll be discussing about the Airbnb console application, right? So now let me explain further. So where is this my output coming from, or where was the logic that resulted to this output implemented? So let's go over to the code and let me show you. So at the end of the video, this is what we'll be building. So we'll have what? We'll have a base model which just models down every single object or models that we'll be having in our application. It just basically has every single attribute and methods that every object to create in our application would inherit, right? After that, we need to persist our object in our file storage. So we'll have a file storage engine over here. So I know there's a lot going on over here, but don't worry, when we are done with this video, you're going to understand a lot about what is happening over here. So this is what our file storage. Then we need a console to interact with our objects, right? So this is a console. We have our console. So this is a console. I know that the console it's a bit overwhelming, the code over here, the code's over here, but don't worry, when we are done with this video, you're going to understand every single detail about how to implement your own console. We have a lot going on over here. You can see we have a lot. You can see the update method, and we have finally the file JSON, which is just basically our objects in our database. Makes sense, right? So now let's move over to console and exit out of our program and basically do Python 3 console.py. So this is it. It says what? Welcome to your application. Type help or a question mark for commands and usage. Available objects, base model, user, state, city, place, amenity, and review. So this is, for instance, when a new user gets to your application and doesn't know how his or her way around your application. So this is like a little prompt that tells the user about how to navigate in your application. And now if I do help, I have documented commands. Don't worry, you get to know how all these are being implemented. And if I do help create, so it tells me how to make use of the create, right? Which we've made use of. Makes sense, right? If I do help update, it tells me how to make use of the update, which is update class name, the ID attribute, and attribute value. Let's basically end this code and just delete our file.json. So now our file.json is deleted, right? Let's recreate it again and do touch file.json and come over here and open. So now the file.json is basically empty, right? So let's start our application again and do Python 3 console.py. Then let's do create. Let's do help create again. So it says create class name. So let's do create, and these are the models, and do, okay, let's just do user. And it says input your name. So we do CS Free, and we do age is 40, and email address is csfree@gmail.com. And an object is being created, which is the object of what? The user. And if I come over here right now, can you see how interesting this is, right? So this file.json, which is our database, now has an entry for the user, CS Free. So we'll not be going over how all of this works. So let's just basically try to update and see if it actually works. So we just do update. So let's do help update. So to update, to make use of the update command, I have to get the class name, the ID, the attribute I want to update, and the value. So So let's say I want to update the name, right? So we could just do update user on what is the ID. So the ID is this, so we get the ID and we paste over here, and we say name is equal to let me say name is equal to Pascal, and it says your name has been updated successfully, right? And we go over here and you see, so our name was updated from CS3 to what, to Pascal. So that's what, making use of this console to interact with our application. So think of this as your regular application where you have a form that you can update your name, your email, and everything. So let's think about updating our ID and see what will happen. So let's clear the terminal so we could have more space to work with, right? So remember, if we do help update, so we need the class name, the ID, and the attribute. So let's do update user. So we need to get the ID of the user. So let's get the ID over here and we paste it and we say ID. So we want to update this ID, right? Let's see what will happen. And let's put like a random string, right? And it says what? Sorry, you can only update your name, age, and email only. So we have some constraint so that in order to prevent the user from updating his own private identity key, right, which we implemented in the user module. So this is how the update works. So let's talk about the help all. So just all class name. So just do all user, so which is the only class that we have over here, and we can still do all. We only have one user in our database. So let me create maybe another user, something like base model, and create amenity. And now if you do all, so you can see we have the user, we have the base model, we have the amenity. So we could just do show show user, and we'll have to pass the ID in order to get the user, and it gets the user, right? So you can see this is how we can work. We can be able to interact with our database. If you see, this is the database of the user. So every single thing we do in this our console gets reflected inside of this our database. And now we could equally do what? We can equally delete the user account. So let's say, for instance, I don't want to have an account with the company again. I can say what? Hey, I want to delete my account. And let's see how the delete command works. So if I do help delete, is just delete. You have to remember your ID. So delete the class name and the ID. So I could do delete, and let me get the user ID over here first of all. So I have to do delete user and the ID, and if I hit enter, his account is deleted from our database. And now if we check, you can see we do no longer have the user object in our database. We only have the base model and the amenity. It's interesting, right? So this is what we'll be implementing and all we'll be learning about in this series of videos. So you see that we have a lot to learn about. So don't freak out, stay calm, stay relaxed, and grab your favorite beverage and tune in to get the best out of this series of video. Thank you so much, and catch you in the next feed. Peace. I perfectly understand how confusing and how it can be very, very disturbing when you want to build a project and you know nothing about the project, and you have like a very limited deadline in ALX, like you have a very big model or a very big project to work on, and you have just like 5 days to complete the project, and you're like, why start? Where do I start? I don't even know where to start from. So don't worry, just sit back, because I've created a very detailed roadmap in order to build your Airbnb console application. So I had a lot of friends reach out to me crying for help or begging for help. They are like, please, can you help us out on this project? We don't know where to start from. We have a lot of questions. And I'm like, let me hear your questions. And they were saying things like, what is a console? Why do we even have to start from a console when we want to build a web application? Does it make any sense? And I'm like, yeah, it does not. But you have to, because it will make sense when you follow the pattern. And they're like, why do we also need to test our models? What is unit testing? Does it make any sense to test? Because we could just make sure everything is working fine and check every single part of our code. And if it's working fine, why don't we have to stress ourselves writing some unit tests that is very, very tedious for us to do? And I'm like, yeah, but you need it. And when you write proper tests, you will see the importance of what? Testing your models before deployment. So to answer all these questions, I created a very detailed roadmap and a very detailed video or series of video to teach you the Airbnb console application. So in this video, we'll be treating all of your nightmares. Nightmares like what is a circular import? What causes a circular import? How to work packages, testing our models using unit testing, and the likes. So trust me when I tell you that this video is what a fully packed video. And you might be asking, do I still need to read every single thing in my intranet? Well, the choice is left for you. But I'm promising you that if you follow this series of video from the beginning to the very last video, you will get this every single ingredient that you need to do to build the Airbnb console application. Because you have a very limited time and you have lots of resources to read about. So what did I do in this video? What I did in this video is that I summoned all the whole resources, or I just like every single resources and pick the most important concepts that you need to build the application and do what and organize them in this playlist. So it makes sense, right? Thank you so much. Bear in mind that I always tell you, I am not and I will never give you fish, but rather I will teach you how to get your own fish. What does that entail? What it entails is that we'll be building this application or this project together. So we'll be doing what? We'll be planning, we'll be getting our logics together, and we'll be writing codes. So if you are here for fish, please take that out of your mind. But if you are here to learn how to get your own fish, you're welcome. Sit back, relax as we go through this video together. So now enough of the long talk. Let's even talk about what is the Airbnb project that we want to build, the clone of it. The Airbnb. So what is the Airbnb? So just to put it out there, the meaning of Airbnb means was air, bed, and breakfast, which is not even relevant to our video today, but just so you know, it's what air, bed, and breakfast, and it traces back to the origins of the company. So now we'll be building a clone of it, and not just a clone, we'll be building what? We'll be building a console clone. We'll be a console. So this is what? A clone. So what is the Airbnb application all about? So just very simple explanation that I can give, you can make more researches about that. So the Airbnb application is just an application that does what that offers rent to people, or like it's not like a real hotel. So it's different from a real hotel. So you have like a host and a customer or a user or something like that. So maybe you want to fly out to a country or anywhere, they can give you reservations, right? So I might have an apartment and I want to rent out a room or a parlor or a living room or my kitchen. So Airbnb is a perfect place to do a business like that, because you can rent out your apartment or your assets or anything you want to rent out, and you get commission as somebody maybe lodged in that your apartment. So it makes sense, right? So this is just like a brief explanation, so you can go read about how Airbnb works in full and get every single detail that you need to know about Airbnb before we start building the console of it. So now, after thinking about what the Airbnb application is all about, what we will be doing in this video. So we have a lot to cover in this video, because as I told you that you don't need any prerequisite. So for that reason, I have to teach you every single prerequisite that you need to know before you can build the Airbnb application. And trust me when I say every single prerequisite, because I will not just be telling you to do this, but I will be showing you and teaching you that every single thing of right has a meaning, and we have a purpose for writing it. So it's all about logic, as I do say, it's all about logic. And that's what ALX also trying to teach us. So they just tell you, I need you to get this thing done like this, but they will not tell you how to do it. Why? That is because that is how real world also function. Your project manager might teach you, hey, the company needs this feature inculcated in the application. And we need this feature before 6 p.m. today. Without even explaining to you how to go about building the feature. And you must find a way to do it, else your job is at risk. So that is why ANX is taking us through that same route of real life space. So you know how to do what, how to come about logic, how to whiteboard, how to think, how to analyze stuff and say, okay, this is what I want to do. How do I go about it? You go to your whiteboard and you start sketching. So that is what we'll be doing in this series of video. We will plan together. You plan with me, right? Promise. Thank you so much. So that's what we'll be doing in this video. So what are the things what are the concepts we'll be covering in this video? So first, we'll have a lot of concepts, but we'll try to summarize them. So we'll be covering what? We'll be covering what? One, what is a console application? A console app. So we'll be looking into what is a console app. And why do we have to build a console app before building a web framework? Why do we have to start with a console app? We'll be looking into that. After that, we'll be looking into what? How to test our model, which is unit testing. This is like a nightmare to learn of developers. But trust me, it's very, very interesting because I mean, open your mind to understanding how we can test our model using unit test. It's very, very simple. If you just know the basics of unit testing, and if you understand how unit testing work, this is very, very simple. Trust me, I will teach you how to think about testing. It's just all about putting yourself in the shoes of the user and say, the user might do crazy stuff. So you put yourself in the shoes of the user and test every single thing. So I will expose your mind to this unit testing model and you fall in love with it. Trust me when I tell you that. Because I was working on the registration application sometime, and I'm like, this is where unit testing comes into play. Because you might write a very robust logic to do what? To capture every single error that the user might try to impute in the registration form or every single bug, right? Trust me when I tell you that you will not get every single thing unless you do a unit test and run. And make sure you test every single possible combination of email, every single possible combination of username, and if everything should check, that means your registration form is valid. But if they did not check, the problem is that when it loads into your database, it will be database corruption. Because when you start querying a database and you see that the database is not well structured, you will have a problem. So that is where unit testing comes into play. So now that I've made you love unit testing, I hope that you are anxious and eager to learn about unit testing, also that it is very, very simple, right? Thank you so much. After that, we talk about what is secular input. We talk about what is secular input. So what is secular import and how does secular import occur in our application? Most likely we face secular import and structuring our projects well using what is called a Python package will help us what? Will help us avoid secular import. Is it making sense? Then after that, we talk about object-oriented paradigm or programming. What is OOP? And why do we choose to work with OOP? In OOP section, we talk about inheritance, we talk about encapsulation, we talk about representing our object as a string, we talk about working with args and quags in our object, we talk about working with the self keyword. And the self keyword is the most important thing in this video because we'll be manipulating the self keyword a lot. You get to understand what is the self keyword. After that, we talk about returning our object as dictionary, which is like the very first step of what? Which is like the very first step of, I hope you can still see me here, the very first step of serialization. Returning our object as dictionary is like the very first step of serialization. Serializing to what? To JSON. You get to understand what is serializing and deserializing, but why do we even have to convert our Python object to JSON before working with it in our application? We start talking about compatibility and a lot of them, right? So you know that you get to know about JSON model. Makes sense, right? After that, we talk about loading our objects into what? Into database. Why do you have to load it? You have to load it because if you don't load your object to the database, you will corrupt. What will happen when the application is done executing? Every single data that was imputed into the application is out of the memory. And imagine the user wants to log in and he does not have an account again with your application. So we need to talk about how to persist the data in the database. Then after that, to talk about manipulating dictionary. And this one sounds a little bit awkward because I know now you're like, who doesn't know how to work with dictionary? But you get to understand a lot about dictionary. Then after that, talk about the UUID model, which is basically what? Which is basically unique identifier. So we need the UUID model so that we can uniquely identify every single object in our database. Makes sense, right? Then the last but not the least, we talk about the CMD model, which is like the senior boy. So this CMD model is just a model that helps us do what? That helps us to interact with our object in our database. So think of this CMD model as your MySQL shell that helps you to do what? Select star users, select star from users, or delete from users where ID is equal to 1. So that's what the CMD is all about because you need a way to interact with the objects in your database. So if not for this CMD model, there is no way you can, okay, there is a way you have to start writing an application like that, but this micro library or model in Python makes it very, very easy for us to do, to work on our object that is stored in the database. So you see that this is what a full pack series. Can you see it's a full pack series because you're going to understand and learn a lot about working on a project because we're planning and doing every single thing together. So bear with me. I know that was a lot, but this is just because I have your interest at heart, and I really, really want you to understand how to build applications yourself. Trust me, when I was learning how to write code, I fell into a lot of tutorial hell after watching a video, following the tutor, and after that, I can't even write a single line of code after the video, and it was very, very sad to me. So that was why I took it upon myself that whenever I want to teach, I will make sure every single person listening to me understand so well how to work on the project. That after the project, he can be able to work on another project or same project by himself, not just copying and pasting what I was doing. Makes sense, right? In the next video, we'll be looking into the project overview. So I know that this was like a lot, so we just have to like break it down in the next video and try to summarize every single thing. So we're trying to divide the project into 3 parts. So we'll see it in the next video so that we can summarize every single thing like this and just have it in 3 parts, but that this is what we are working on. Makes sense, right? So thank you so much, and I will catch you in the next